So, okay, this is your crazy Uncle Rob. I'm going to show you some crazy Uncle Rob shit. Anyways, so a lot of you probably know I've had mixed results with the Z-axis on my old DHC. Okay, and that's all good and well, but I think I finally figured it out. First off, it is a CAN stepper motor being run in bipolar mode. No, it doesn't need any mental health checkups or anything. What that means is that it's just two coils, and it's called a CAN stack motor on the old DHCs for the Plasmacam plasma CNC tables. Why they went with that, I don't know. So first thing that happened is I figured out that the lead screw was bent. Okay, so what I subsequently did is I realized that a quarter 20 is very similar to the 1.25 by 6 millimeter Acme lead screw. Now I went with a regular screw, and you're saying, oh, you lost accuracy. It's just a Z-axis. It really doesn't matter at all. And most screws are done by screw machines, and they're CNC, and they're very accurate to begin with. So chances are it'll be fine. Now, then what I did was there is a rotor inside there that spins, a captive rotor. And at that point, what I did was I went ahead and I was able to rethread that or retap it to quarter 20. And then went ahead and put it in there. Everything seemed fine. Now, my DHC motor, like so many DHC motors, blew the cap off. What basically happened is all the wear and tear from lifting and people crashing it and people doing stupid stuff with it before me. And matter of fact, that's why I got it. And they said, DHC doesn't work. This thing sucks and yada, yada. And I said, well, I'll take a look at it. Bottom line is DHC was toast. I went ahead and I refurbed it. Well, now I had to go a little bit further and refurb it even more. What was interesting was how tore up the bearings were. And I'll get back to that because I may end up having to change the bearings on the rotors. So bottom line was, number one, replace the lead screw with a quarter 20. Number two, you're going to retap the rotor to quarter 20. Make sure you run it through a few times. Do it very smoothly. Don't cock it up or anything. You want it to be a nice clean thread. Number three, polish the quarter 20 rod before you actually put it in the machine, because it's definitely not as smooth as the Acme screw. Number four, finally get all that done. Number four, there is a brass captive ferrule on the bottom, and what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to drill and retap it to quarter 20, and don't tap it all the way through. Make sure that it necks down in the bottom so it'll pinch. Then go ahead and screw your thread down into there and test it. Then take it out, put some JB weld on there and screw it back down there. That'll keep it from spinning. And that little captive piece is what's captive in it. Now, I'm going to show you mine. It's totally dirty, but whatever, right? Bottom line is it works. And number five was that you need to put some kind of positive pressure on the downward, at least in my case. And the reason being is I think you have to, I think what we're doing is we're ensuring that it senses a load from the computer algorithm. When it senses that load, it goes, oh, okay, I have a load on me. I need to go ahead and supply enough current. Otherwise, if it doesn't see any load, it tries to get away with sending a very weak current. The other thing you have to do in this also too is because now you've put a load on there. What I did was I used just an O-ring and a couple of zip ties and let the O-ring be the adjustable load. I just like saying load. Anyway, and this has been quite a load. I don't need to tell you, right? Yeah, it's a load right now. This dude doesn't even know what he's talking about. Who's this guy on the damn YouTube? I don't even know who this guy. Okay, so let's get some light over here. I do everything in one take. I don't believe in editing. I don't care what your mama says. Not interested. By the way, it's dirty because I've been using it, right? So one of the other things you have to do here, and I'm going to show you, is in your settings, now this is for the DHC Plasmacam, old school, right? In the DHC, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your height control, and for your digital height control, where it says cutting height, keep everything the same, but you're going to go into advanced, and here's what you're going to do. So as you can see here, come on, autofocus, fool. Put it on macro. No, don't care about that. Is it dirty? It just doesn't like that screen apparently. Anyways, so as you can see here, maybe, oh, there we go. Stupid. It actually made me have to hit it. So let me do, okay, there it is. So what we got here is it says height tolerance. I have mine at 0.086. Yours may vary. Minimum cutting signal at 1.91. So the important things here are your max climb inches per minute and your max dive inches per minute. What these are actually doing is they're not giving the max dive and the max climb because they have no feedback except for the arc. The only thing that they have is the arc itself, the arc voltage to go off of, but it doesn't really know how fast it corrects. What this does is max climb and max dive set your maximum current going to the motor. We'll crank that up, man, because these things definitely don't move fast to begin with. All right, so that's that, and that screen is height control details. Okay, so in this case, I already said it, so I'm going to hit cancel. And now the next thing you're going to have to do is over travel to stall is going to become much higher. You're going to at least have to usually, well, I would say it should be about the same because once you turn up the height control, you don't need to mess with this. But I put this up pretty high. Probably didn't need to. I probably could have got away with, well, I mean, 0.8. This also sets the current that triggers it to turn off. So if you increase the load on the DHC motor, then you have to increase the current in your advanced menu. That means that you're going to have to increase your over travel for stall because it's looking at how much current is being delivered before it trips out and then realizes, oh, I'm actually on the material. Okay, so that's that part. Now the next part is, as you can see, this thing is ugly, but I don't care. See, because I got stuff to do. All right, YouTube ain't my thing, bro. Ain't my thing, baby. So as you can see, so what we did was we cut this off because we've got the machine torch. So we got rid of the rest of this. This is dead weight, literally dead weight. So what we did here is you can see there's a zip tie there, an O-ring, and then another zip tie around here. If you take that off, it won't work. With it on, it works great. Why? Well, that was a good question. What we figured out is we took this thing all apart, took the can stacks, took the rotor out, took the can stacks out, and what we figured out is that that rotor will shift sometimes and jam up. When it shifts really fast, it'll actually get an impulse moment and jam it into there. And here's the thing. It would have been better in this application to go ahead and go with shim washer bearings rather than bearings. And the reason why is because regular ball bearings of that size don't like to be overloaded. Oh, another thing. When you go ahead and you put this in here, this hole is no longer big enough. That won't go through. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to drill the top and bottom holes out because the 1/4-20 is slightly larger, and I mean just a hair. So this was another thing that we learned is that the DHC's problems is not necessarily the rotor. It is somewhat, but here's the thing: if there's any offset angle, also too, this has to move freely. See this? This thing's supposed to give. Okay, so a couple things we did. First thing we did is we actually drilled the hole for the Allen head underneath larger so that it would have more ability to comply, right? Then the other plan is probably be a good thing to oil this plate so the plate can slide, move around a little bit. That was an oversight on their part. Bottom line is a can stack motor with a captive screw does not like to be side loaded. Okay, it's not interested in any of that nonsense. The moment it side loads, then it's pushing the rotor one direction or another, and between the rotor and the coil rings in the can stack, I mean, you're looking at maybe 5 thou, 10 thou. I mean, in some places, sometimes when it's spinning, even when it spins properly, it's touching. So, yeah, how do you handle that? I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those things. Bottom line, one thing I thought about doing was, so there's these fingers, right, for the core. So I thought about actually taking a flap wheel and opening those up a little bit just to get a little bit more clearance. So if the rotor does cock, it doesn't jam against the sharp edge of one of those. I put some oil in there too. That seemed to have helped a little bit. And this is just a ring to hold the top of the can back on, because I'm not giving Plasmacam any more of my money until I figure out a better solution. So anyways, one of the ways I figured this out was by using Mr. Oscilloscope. And yeah, so normally I'm an instrumentation guy, so it's my job to find out how things like this work, even when they don't work. So very interesting state of affairs that was occurring for a while there. So that works. I need to not say and if you notice here, I have it cocked over a little bit. It always seems to do a little bit better on that side. I don't know, your mileage may vary. What I suggest you do is after you rebuild the motor, you get everything settled out, you get your quarter 20 screw in there, you drilled the hole in the bottom to accept the quarter 20 screw. What I would say for you to do at that point is, and then you've rethreaded your rotor, what I would say for you at that point is try it first. So what I did was I just kind of bent the hell out of this thing until I can get that little retainer out, and then put it back in, and then bent it back up again. Again, I don't really care. This whole bit of squeeze is going away soon. As soon as I come up with a replacement for the can stack motor, which I will sell you, and I won't even ask for your serial number. Ooh, I found the company they went through. Again, more of my sleuthing. Because actually, I mean, I want something stronger than this. And oddly enough, turning up the dive speed, the rise and dive speed in the DHC controls seems to have helped quite a bit. I can guarantee you that this, I put oil on this, but I can guarantee you that this is probably still not as smooth as the original Acme lead screw. Meh, whatever. Here's the thing. If you do get the Acme lead screw, likely you could probably put that thing back in there if you could find a 6x1.25, which, by the way, nobody makes. Just more stuff they did here that just to screw you up. So far, it's worked great. No real problems. The hardest problem was the angling of the gantry, and we went ahead and we fixed that. And just to give you an idea, these things are on here pretty tight. You can't, there's not enough gap for you to be able to turn it with your finger or anything. I mean, that thing, I mean, it's in there. The other ones are like that too. The bottom ones are like that. I shimmed the bottom ones, but after I went through all this, I realized I probably didn't. So I might go ahead and take out those shims. To make the shims, I took some washers and a bolt cutter and just went ahead and took care of business. Cut a little section out of it. And that seemed to have worked pretty well. Secondarily, what else do we have? Okay, so the problem with this way this is configured, okay, this is an oversight on their fault, on their part. That's probably why they got rid of it. So the problem is that the way this gantry moves and everything moves here and the kinematics of it, this plate does not slide easily. It's not only supposed to slide like back and forth, it's actually supposed to slide left and right. And it does a little bit in my case, see? Problem is, once you get pressure on it, then it locks itself in. So it's not going to compensate for any kind of deviation in the lead screw itself. So it may be okay down here and it starts moving, and then it binds up because it hits an area on the lead screw that has a slight bend or whatever. If somebody has crashed your plasma cutter more than a handful of times, then yeah, this is going to be damaged already. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay. Absolutely nothing. So there's a couple of ways I've thought about it. I actually was going to make a put a little switch coming off of here, and effectively what that switch would do is if it's going down and it's about to crash, it opens up the four. So this, by the way, this thing has actually 4 wires, 2 for each coil, the upper and the lower. It actually opens up one of the coils, and when it realizes it opens up one of the coils, it automatically stops. At that point, you just make sure it resets, and then you can move along. Bottom line being, it saved your tip and probably saved your can stack motor on your DHC. So that's one option that I went for. Another option was to actually get in the back, put the switch on there, and then run a wire that goes all the way up through to here and over to here and goes to that switch. And so when it goes too far here and it's actually starting to drive or touch the tip, as an emergency situation, it automatically goes across that switch with a relay or something. That's simple stuff. Again, all things that they should have had built into here. Come on, guys. I'm sure they probably got something much better, but I'm not paying, $4,000 for the upgrade. I would just as soon go with open source, which is another reason why I had Mr. Oscilloscope out and Mr. Fluke 789. So anyways, they have those kits and they work pretty well, and you can get the computer built in with it, and you can get access over the internet for it and hook up a camera to it. It's just like a whole computer, man. It's a Raspberry Pi Mach 3 or something. And then you get real DHC and real gantry control where you can actually put a router on it, and the router will do what it's supposed to do, and everybody's happy. And you can put a big enough motor on here that it'll actually be able to handle having a router on it with all the extra weight and everything and the extra load required. Okay, so 2 ways they could have handled this. This way is by far the worst because this plate doesn't move. It doesn't compensate for any lead screw deviation, etc. And also, too, if anything gets on the threads, it's getting pulled into the motor. And then when it gets pulled, and this is what happened to mine, then when it gets pulled into the motor or the dust gets built up into the motor, then you have a problem where the rotor can't turn because it's jamming up on little bits of metal and stuff. Horrible, right? Basically, what this should have been was like the can motor with a spud on it, and then a regular lead screw being driven by a coupler that could allow it to conform a little bit to the movement and the motion within the lead screw and deal with any of the deviations. That would have been the best way to do it, because you would have actually doubled your tolerance to deviations at that point, because here, this should have been gone. They should have made a little like brass plate or something, and then they could pull it, or well, actually what they should have done was made this higher and then put the screw here and have lead screw sticking out. We all would have been much better off because it would have been able to handle the deviations in the lead screw as it goes up and down, and be totally cool with it, you know. But this direct drive thing, this is, my other problem too, obviously, is that for whatever reason, I thought bigger was better. Won't get into that right now. Whoops. And bought this thing, and this thing's actually pretty freaking heavy compared to the normal handle that you would have for a torch. But this is nicer. I like it better. It's cool because I have this thing set up so I literally could grab this torch here and just plug it in down there, not have to just unplug that from down there, not have to do anything else, plug that in there. I changed the circuit so that way then I can just grab that, walk out somewhere and go cut with it. I don't have to mess around with the DHC and turn on switch issues and all that. I've already taken care of all that wiring. I'm not going to tell you how to do that right now because whatever. Anyways, seems to work really well. So it goes all the way up, all the way down. I'm in much great appreciation of it. So there she goes. Look at that baby. Now, even when this thing was new, it didn't do this right, which is another thing that's a little disturbing about this whole shady setup here. Look at that, man. How many of you still have a DHC that can do that, where you didn't have to buy a new motor? I bet you that motor's probably smoking too, because oh, I got to hang up there. Oh, it got me, trying to make a liar out of me. Oh, look at you. There we go. Anyway, still better than when I first got it. So, and there you are. So it works pretty well. Most of the time, these things just can't do that very well. They always hang up. Man, I've been yapping for 20 minutes.